His father allowed his 11-year-old son to fly his plane while he got drunk beside him. And what happens after this clip is extremely devastating. So this happened in Brazil on July 29th of this year when 42-year-old Garon Maia allowed his 11-year-old son to operate his plane. The video was filmed by the father and posted on his social media right before the plane crashed.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? As you guys can see, man, we got a brand new video for you guys today. If you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Thank you guys for tapping in with us, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
Was sentenced to 50 years in prison, and you won't believe what he did. In 2022, Noah Nay shot a 5-year-old girl in the neck and shoulder in Oklahoma. This teen, who I swear looks like a 9-year-old, was riding in a stolen car and purposely shot inside a home where the little girl was playing. But again, this was no accident. No one did this for a gang initiation. Luckily, the little girl survived, but had the bullet hit a spot an inch away, she would have definitely died. Noah was arrested, but not long after, he escaped the juvenile detention center by jumping a fence. He was found 4 days later, but when he was put back into the detention center, he repeatedly assaulted staff. Noah was sentenced as an adult, but the judge said that in 2028, his sentence can be reduced.
Planets you never knew existed?
Crazy.
Part 1. Up first, we have 55 Concrete E. This planet is about 40 light years away from us. Its surface temperature is over 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's believed to be covered with diamonds, and it's twice the size of Earth. Up next, we have HD 1897-33b. This planet is 62 light years away from Earth. Wind speed on this planet reaches over 5,500 miles an hour. That's 7 times faster than the speed of sound. Temperatures reach over 1,600 degrees. This planet rains glass, too. And it rains sideways due to the fast winds. Finally, we got Korat 7b. This planet is 489 light years away from Earth. It rains rocks on this planet. The surface temperature is 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit. A year on this planet lasts 20 hours, and
here's some tips that could save your life that you're actually likely to use. If you're ever outside and your hair's standing straight up, you're about to be struck by lightning. So what you have to do is crouch into this position and brace yourself. If your house ever randomly smells like fish, 9 out of 10 times it's an electrical fire. If you're ever in a foreign country and you don't know the emergency number, dial 112. It's the universal number for emergency. If a tornado looks like it's not moving, it's actually moving towards you. If there's ever a gas leak in your house, don't turn on the lights. A spark from the light switch can blow up your entire house. If you're ever in a crashing elevator, lie down flat to evenly distribute your weight. If you happen to fall into a subway track, look for the little crawl space and hide in there. If there's a deer on a road, you have a better chance of surviving if you drive into it. But if it's a moose, drive into a ditch. Even if you have no service, you can still call 911. Share this.
So it's December 28th, 2024, and 33-year-old Teresa Bermal decides to bring Jell-O shots to a Christmas party. The only problem? The partygoers were 5th graders. She brought Jell-O shots into her daughter's elementary school for their annual Christmas party. So they look something like this. They're a huge hit with the kids, and within minutes, 36 of the 40 are gone. So a little bit of time goes by, a couple kids start complaining of a headache, a couple kids start complaining of a stomach ache, 2 kids start throwing up, and 1 kid who had 6 Jell-O shots straight up passes out. Teachers, who are like, what in the hell is going on, smell the alcohol, send the kids to the nurse, and by 11:15 in the morning, the assistant principal has called 911. So the cops contact the bakery that made these Jell-O shots, and they're like, absolutely not. There's no way she didn't know there was alcohol in these. Apparently, the flyer that Teresa ordered from says contains vodka, and the bakery owner showed a correspondence of text messages where Teresa straight up asked the owner, do these contain alcohol? Which she, of course, said yes. Teresa has been arrested and bail was set at $75K.
Now, what was the point of that? If you heard that story, you probably wouldn't even believe it, man. Giving kids some Jell-O shots. They thinking it's just, regular Jell-O. Looking at it. Looks so innocent, so unharmful. People be doing crazy things, man. It truly breaks my mind. The fact that she knew what she was doing, too. walking on the road.
Rare human body features only a small percentage have PT.11. Only 10% of people have birthmarks. They're usually oval in shape and come in a coffee-type color. 25% of people have perfect teeth and never need braces or any orthodontics. 45% of children need braces, but 75% need orthodontic care. Only 12% of people dream in black and white. Less than 1% of people have an extra rib. Most people are born with 24, but some have 25 ribs. The 25th is called a cervical rib.
Wow, what the hell? I needed braces growing up.
This father allowed his 11-year-old son to fly his plane while he got drunk beside him. And what happens after this clip is extremely devastating. So this happened in Brazil on July 29th of this year when 42-year-old Garon Maia allowed his 11-year-old son to operate his plane. The video was filmed by the father and posted on his social media right before the plane crashed and taking both of their lives. And what's crazy is that in the video, Garon is seen drinking beer as his son is flying the plane. So not only are their lives in danger because his son clearly doesn't know how to fly a plane, but this man is drinking, and sadly when Garon's wife found out what happened to them, she took her own life. And apparently this was not the first time that Garon allowed his son to fly his plane. It's such a sad case, and I really do feel for this child who was put in such a dangerous situation.
Prayers to that family, man.
Here are some cool things that are happening in the world right now. There was a rare golden penguin that was found recently that had bright yellow feathers instead of black and white. A 99-year-old woman wanted to experience jail before she passed away, so the police made it happen. A cafe in Japan is actively hiring paralyzed people to remotely control robot servers. One man named Michael has been building treehouses for over 30 years and has created the world's largest concentration of treehouses. His resort is fully equipped with electricity, air conditioning, heating, everything needed. A group of best friends built a tiny town so that they can all grow old together. 600 men showed up to mentor students in Dallas when they only asked for 50. Luxembourg has become the first country in the world to officially grant public transportation to everybody for free. We have found 128 new moons around Saturn. This means that we know Saturn has at least 274 moons, which beats Jupiter to have the most moons in our solar system. Some scientists in Italy just turned pure light into solid matter for the first time ever. Researchers created a hydrogel that self-heals like humans.
Disturbing facts that will ruin your day. Firstly, you know these vacuum toilets that are most commonly used on planes and cruise ships? Well, there have been many reports of them sucking the rectum out of people when they flush. Next, this is just disappointing. 1 in 4 Americans actually believe that the sun rotates around the earth. Now, studies show that the average person will wait 5 months of their lifetime for red lights to turn green. You know when you're watching a movie or TV show and you hear these laugh tracks in the background? Well, most of them were recorded in the 50s, so you're hearing dead people laugh. This will ruin your childhood. The Red Power Ranger, Ricardo Medina, pleaded guilty to killing his roommate with a sword. Finally, you are now closer to death than you...
These are the saddest and most wholesome graves in the entire world. This grieving mother added a sandbox to her little boy's grave who had passed away unexpectedly, and now his older brother plays in it every single day. This is the gravesite of a boy who died of an incurable illness in 1865. A few hours before he died, he told his dad he was scared of death because he knew they were gonna bury him underground with no lights. So the parents honored his wish and put a window in his tomb. After her daughter died of yellow fever in 1892, a grieving mother wanted to make sure that her little girl was never alone. You see, her daughter was absolutely terrified of storms, so she constructed a staircase that goes directly down into her tomb. Every time there was a thunderstorm, that mother would go to the graveyard and sit with her daughter for hours, comforting her in her grave.
Those are some great parents, man. Truly. Even still with the kids, even after.
Strangest facts about zodiac signs. Part 2. Capricorn. It's stated they know exactly what you're gonna say before you say it. Almost extremely good at reading minds. Aries. Extremely short-tempered. I'd steer clear around any bad news around them. Don't forget to like and follow for
This will make you never want to go into space. A man named Michael was alone in space with no other humans for thousands of miles. But then he heard static coming from his radio, and Michael had a gut-wrenching feeling. Hello, this is Michael Stanton of the Rising Dawn. Do you read me? Over. A breathless voice then replied, Thank God. I didn't know how much longer I could survive out here. What's going on? Where are you communicating from? The voice then said back, I'm right outside your ship, Stanton. Open the hatch door and let me in. Michael's heart rate quickened. He found the strength to turn off the radio, and then he heard it. Let me in, the voice repeated, but it wasn't like before. It sounded demonic, and Michael never opened the door. Everyone back home told him he could not have possibly heard those sounds in a space vacuum, but Michael still knew that thing was still out there.
Aliens, bro? That sounds like a plot of an
Disturbing
alien
facts that are guaranteed to freak you out. The United States military has lost at least 3 nuclear bombs, meaning that there are 3 nuclear bombs that have never been found. In Cameroon in 1986, a potential landslide produced a huge cloud of carbon dioxide to emit from a lake, and that cloud of CO2 ended up killing 1,700 people in their sleep. And lastly, this one is super gross, but it is possible for a human being to become so constipated.
This is the creepy story about the blue door. There was a young boy bored sitting at home, and he decided to go for a walk around his house. But before he left, his father said, "Walk where you want, but do not open the blue door." The boy was walking around the house. He was opening and closing doors when he came across the blue door. He looked at it for a few seconds and then refused to open it, listening to his father. The next day, the boy was walking around his house again when he came to the blue door, but this time he heard screaming coming from it. Temptations got the better of him, and he decided to open the door. When he opened the blue door, he saw multiple people tied up, trying to scream for help. He immediately closed the door and ran away. The next day, the young boy decided that he was going to try and help them. He then went back to the blue door, and this time when he opened it, his heart stopped. His dad was standing inside holding an axe. "I warned you about the door," screamed his father, as he cut his son into little pieces.
Did you guys know that Brittany Drexler's body has been found after 13 years? On April 25th, 2009, 17-year-old Brittany Drexel went missing while visiting Myrtle Beach for spring break with some friends. Brittany lived in New York, and her mother didn't give her permission to travel to Myrtle Beach because she feared something would happen to her. But Brittany went anyway. Later that day, on the 25th, Brittany walked to her friend's hotel that was a few miles away, but as she made her way back, she suddenly disappeared. The last message that she sent to her boyfriend John, who was in New York, was at 8:58 p.m. and when she stopped responding, he contacted Brittany's mother. 62-year-old sex offender Raymond Moody became a person of interest, but he was never charged until now. It wasn't until recently that detectives developed information they needed to make an arrest, and that's when he finally confessed and led investigators to the woods where he buried Brittany. 13 years later, on May 11th, 2022, Brittany's remains were found in a wooded area in Georgetown, South Carolina. Raymond kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and murdered Brittany the same day she went missing. He is now eligible for the death sentence, and he was charged with murder, kidnapping.
I'm gonna ruin your childhood. Have you ever...
Here's why you should always stay away from clowns. In 2004, a babysitter was babysitting a couple kids when she noticed something odd in the corner of the room. There was this really creepy clown statue, and no matter how she kind of moved herself, she always felt like it was looking right at her. She then got a call from the parents to see how the kids were doing. She said, "Yeah, everything's going alright, but what's with that clown statue?" There was an eerie silence for a second, and the parents answered, "You don't own a clown statue." The babysitter immediately ran upstairs, grabbed the kids, and ran outside. She quickly called 911, and this is what the cops found. They said they found the clown hiding under one of the kids' beds with a sharpened screwdriver. Thank goodness you got out of there when you did.
Today we googled which massive bodybuilders have completely lost their gains. So in at number 5 is Paul Dillard. Now this guy was absolutely massive, weighing at almost 300 pounds. He competed for years but retired in 2006. And when he stopped training, time was not kind to his gains and he is now almost unrecognizable. In 4th place is Mustafa Mohammed. Now he was one of the most promising bodybuilders at the time, but he mysteriously quit when he was in his prime. If you saw him today, you would have never known that he was once an absolute monster. In 3rd place is Jean-Pierre Fuchs. Now he was the kind of bodybuilder that turned heads at every competition, but after snapping both of his knees while squatting, he retired and he lost all of his gains. In 2nd place is Tom Prince. Now he was considered to have one of the best physiques when he was competing, but his kidneys actually failed, I think we know why, which ultimately forced him into retirement. Since then his body is completely shrunk, leaving no trace of the massive muscle he once possessed. And in at number 1 is the king of bodybuilding, the 8-time Mr. Olympia champion, and one of the biggest and strongest bodybuilders of the modern era, Ronnie Coleman. And although he's had to have 12 spine surgeries and literally learn how to walk again, he still manages to get into the gym every single day, but he only held on to
breaking. Could you guys get gains like that, man? I feel like to me that's too much, bro. All that just looks extra meat, man, on the bone, bro. I don't know if I can do that.
New research published yesterday has revealed that crows experience a much higher level of consciousness than we previously thought. A study into their brain revealed that crows experience primary consciousness, previously only observed in primates. We've always known crows were clever. They are excellent problem solvers, and creepily enough, research has shown that when a crow encounters a mean human, it will then teach other crows how to identify the human. Research has also shown that crows never forget a face, so remember that next time you're messing with one. The fact that crows, which last shared a common ancestor with primates 320 million years ago, are aware of themselves and their thoughts means we may have to completely rethink our understanding of consciousness and which animals experience it.
Interesting. I've seen a crow play Tik Toks before, so that's not surprising. Watching these kids together with you guys, man. Expanding my mind horizons.
Terrifying facts about the ocean. Let's get into it. So we've explored roughly 5% of the ocean, leaving many things and creatures yet to be discovered. Also, sunlight penetrates about 700 feet into the ocean, and after that we're in a murky black abyss where we cannot see anything, but many things can still see us. There are about 3 million shipwrecks, with countless human bodies being eaten by many undiscovered and unexplained organisms, so that's terrifying and horrible to think about. Also, there are many unexplained disappearances, from ships to planes to people. Also, the pressure at the bottom of the ocean is so immense it equates to 50 jumbo jets being piled on top of us. There are also plenty of terrifying and deadly diseases that eat our flesh while we were still alive in the ocean. Plenty of creatures have just been discovered, including the giant squid and the basking shark, so who knows what other giant and massive and deadly creatures have yet to be discovered. Also, here's a terrifying situation to think about. We cannot swim up out of the ocean very quick or we will die of something called the bends. So imagine being deep down in the ocean and trying to escape, but realizing you cannot swim up, so you are fucked by whatever creature is chasing you. Also, there are tons of dead bodies. Yeah.
This is the shocking true story of the man who was born with a second face attached to the back of his head. This is Edward Mordrake. He described the extra face on the back of his head as the devil's twin. The extra face couldn't speak, however, it could laugh and cry separate from Edward's emotions. At age 23, he pleaded with doctors to remove this second face. However, after doctors refused to remove the second face, he sadly killed.
Eerie thinks you should never ask Siri. Click the plus, drop a like, tag a friend. I think she's listening. Number 1 is when the world is going to end. Number 2 is what's your favorite animal? Show a smile with an animal that doesn't exist anymore and is cursed. Number 3 is when's the robot apocalypse? Comment down below what you responded with and like for a part 2.
I'll be asking Siri some real questions. I don't.
Because everyone's talking about the possible serial killer in Grand Junction, Colorado, let me tell you about one of their most infamous murder cases. The Blacks were a picture-perfect family of born-again Christians until November 13th, 2001, when Michael came home to a pool of blood. His wife Jennifer and 6-year-old daughter Abby missing. The back door was left open, Jennifer's purse was spilled out on the floor, and her jewelry was missing. But when authorities looked at the crime scene, something was off. If a stranger had broken into their home, why would they leave items of value behind, like guns and cash? And why would they move the bodies in Jennifer's van and return it to the family's garage? In May the following year, investigators start digging through the Mesa County landfill, and after removing 3,000 tons of trash, they find the mummified remains of Jennifer Black, wrapped in a tent and surrounded by trash from her husband's workplace. Michael was convicted for only his wife's murder in 2004, but 13 years later, he got a second shot at freedom. It turns out a juror lied on her questionnaire about being a victim of DV. In 2018, he got the same result, life in prison without the possibility of parole. And despite being convicted twice, he refuses to reveal the location of his 6-year-old daughter, Abby. It's believed her remains are still deep in the Mesa County.
Pure monster, man. Crazy ass story.
Horrifying facts you haven't knew.
In 1988, Iranian man Mehran Karimi Nasseri was traveling to the UK with his briefcase containing essential refugee documents. Was stolen from him at a Paris train station. Unable to prove his identity to British immigration officials, Nasseri was returned to France and found himself completely stranded in Terminal 1 of Paris's main airport. He remained there for an astonishing 18 years, during which he became a fixture in the terminal, residing on a red bench surrounded by his belongings, writing in his diary and engaging with airport staff and travelers. In 2006, Nasseri was hospitalized, finally ending his long stay at the airport. He later lived in a Paris shelter, before returning to the airport in 2022, where he would spend his final days, before dying of a heart attack in the same terminal. His unique situation inspired several works, most notably the 2004 film The Terminal, directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Tom Hanks.
Here are some cool things about animals that you probably didn't know. Ants will form living rafts with their bodies. Some will drown so others can float. Bearded dragons can change their sex in the egg depending on the temperature. Flying snakes will flatten their bodies and glide through the air like living frisbees. That is absolutely terrifying. Koalas have fingerprints that are so human-like that they have been confused in police investigations for humans. Wombats poop cubes, and not only that, they stack them like bricks to mark their territory. Male antagonists mate non-stop for 14 hours, then die from immune system collapse. A female giant panda is only capable of conceiving a cub for 24 to 72 hours once a year. Salmon return to their birthplace to spawn, then die. Arctic terns migrate 50,000 miles annually to take advantage of both the summer conditions in the Arctic and in Antarctica. Wisdom the albatross is still laying eggs at nearly 70 years old and has been tracked since 1956. Wasps save $417 billion in crops each year by eating pests. Pistol shrimp stun prey with bubble shockwaves, disrupting small reef ecosystems. Termites do actually eat wood faster when listening to rock music. Penguins will actually nap thousands of times a day, which helps them survive these brutal Antarctic conditions they live in. Parasitic wasps will inject spiders with venom and force them to build baby nests.
Which countries have the most serial killers? On average, in your lifetime, you will walk past 36 murderers / serial killers. So that actually got me thinking, which countries have the most serial killers? And of course, there's a study, and here are the results. The top 21 countries with the most serial killers, so the countries with the least, are Sweden, the Netherlands, Scotland, Poland, Spain, and Hungary. Placing 15th to 11th, we have Austria, Brazil, Mexico, China, and France. Okay, now this is the top 10 countries that have produced the most serial killers. We have Russia, India, Australia, Germany, and Japan. Placing in the top 5, we have Italy with 97, Canada with 106, South Africa with 117, England with 166, and the United States with 3,204. Now send this to someone who you know lives in one of these countries because you made the list. Elon!
Damn. Got some Disney secrets.
Disney secrets that you didn't know. If you look close, you can see that most scenes from different Disney movies are actually very similar. And that's because drawings were actually made by hand. And the animators only make a few changes to make a new scene. And since Walt Disney wanted to spend most of his time at Disneyland, he actually built a secret apartment on the second floor of the fire station, which is located on the famous avenue that leads you to the park's Central Plaza. And the name of the wizard in Fantasia is actually Yenzin, which is actually the word Disney in reverse. And Blue from Monsters, Inc.'s real name is actually Mary, and that's because the person who plays her is called Mary Gibbs.
Scary facts that will make your skin crawl. BT.6. Phobias are based on how we died in our past life. Maybe that's why we're afraid to do things we never tried, because it's how we died. Experts said that dark areas such as abandoned houses and vacant rooms are the possible places where you can feel the presence of ghosts. So if you're alone right now while reading this post, there is a chance that someone is watching you. If you're awake at night without a reason, then it means that you are awake in someone else's dreams.
That phobia thing. Interesting.
The first one is about finding Nemo. Did you know that Nemo actually translates to nothing or nobody in Latin? And some people think that that's just what he was. He was nothing. After the traumatic attack on his family, Marlon created a fictional son in his mind in order to cope with the loss. So finding Nemo was really just him going through the stages of grief. And that's also why he's so overprotective. And the next one gets even darker. It's about cars.
Whoa.
When you were watching this, you might have noticed that there are no humans anywhere. But humans had to have been there at some point to build the cars, change the motors, and all that kind of stuff. So what happened to them? The theory is that in the future, technological advancements made it possible for cars to think on their own. Which I feel like at this point is not that far of a stretch, you know what I mean? But they didn't want to be controlled by humans anymore. So they ran over all the humans one by one until they took over the world.
Websites you should... I didn't even think about that with the Cars movie theory, man, because I remember as a kid, I'd be like, well, where the humans at? That I think about it, that theory could actually be true. Our childhood's bad. Get exposed.
Probably remember SAAI.ai. This website allows you to generate custom articles from the click of a button. Once you're on the website, there are 3 separate options. First, input what topic you want to talk about. The second one is you want to select what type of essay you're willing to write. You can choose from all of these options. Third, select how many words you want it to actually be. And finally, you can select which language you want to do. Here's a tip. If you click the undetectable mode, it will make it look like an actual human wrote it, giving you a 0% AI score. Which means teachers or people you're sending this to will think you're the one who actually wrote it, and we can use GPT-0 to check the results of this, and as you can see, bam, here they go.
Life hack.
Good luck with this, and please don't snitch.
Morbid facts.
You know college kids gonna be using that.
In 1987, police responded to Illinois father Russell Dardine's home after he failed to report to work. There they found the dead bodies of his pregnant wife Ruby and their son, who were both victims of a brutal beating. Ruby was beaten so badly that she prematurely went into labor, and even the newborn baby was beaten to death as well. Initially, Keith was the most obvious suspect until his body was found shot dead in a nearby field with his genitals mutilated. Serial killer Tommy Lynn Sells later confessed to the murders but was never formally charged, so the case remains cold. In 1980, John Favera, the neighbor of Mafia boss John Gotti, accidentally ran over and killed the mobster's 12-year-old son Frank. Although it was ruled an accident, Favera went missing that same year and was never seen nor heard from again. Former mobster Charles Carneglia later claimed that Favera was abducted, tortured, and slowly dismembered with a chainsaw while he was still alive. His remains were then stuffed inside a barrel filled with concrete and dumped in the ocean.
Man. That's a dark case right there.
Gross habits that are actually good for you.
What?
You probably think burping is rude and disrespectful. Well, that's wrong. Burping actually helps release the air that's trapped inside your lungs. And believe it or not, but if you never burp, you could actually damage your digestive system. Biting your nails might seem nasty at first, but digesting bacteria that's under your nails actually improves your immune system. Studies show that kids who bite their nails are actually less prone to getting sick. Before I tell you the grossest one, I found this app where you can erase anything from your photos, and I mean literally anything. Press the link in my bio, but don't use it for bad. If you shower every day, stop right now. Showering every day could actually damage your skin and your hair. Because when you shower, you remove many useful bacteria. So the next time you skip a few showers, just know you're actually being healthy. 48-year-old.
Man, y'all been seeing that thing. I know y'all been seeing the thing with the celebrities, how they be saying how they be taking some of them. They be saying they don't even be taking showers, or they be showering every other day, something like that. That's like, I don't know about that one, Chief. That one's kind of weird. No, I ain't gonna say kind of, it is kind of weird. Oh man, what do you guys think about that one?
David Carpenter from Iowa was recently arrested after accidentally shooting his father in the face after the two were arguing about David's stinky feet. He is now awaiting trial. Here are some recent crimes that happened in August of 2024 that caught my attention. This is 25-year-old David Fogel, who was kicked out of a strip club in Tampa, Florida for, quote, inappropriate behavior. Instead of driving home, he drove his truck into a group of people waiting outside the entrance. He injured multiple and took the life of one. He is now awaiting trial and could receive life in prison. A missing persons cold case from 1974 of 34-year-old Doris Wurst and her daughter 4-year-old Karen was recently closed after police received a call of a car located at the bottom of a canal. Inside were the remains of both Doris and Karen. One speculation as to how the two ended up at the bottom of the canal is from CBSNews.com. Quote, the mother and the girl's father were going through a custody battle at the time the mom and the girl went missing. A source said the mom took off with the 4-year-old girl and threatened to take her life and the life of her daughter if she couldn't have custody. Let me know your thoughts.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory, part 11. The girl wearing the veil is Elizabeth Smart, who was kidnapped for 9 months by the man on the far right. This photo was taken at a party the kidnapper crashed with Elizabeth, and she was forced to wear this veil at all times to keep her from being recognized in public. While this photo may seem like a bunch of astronauts hanging out at the pool and having a great time, it's actually the crew of Apollo 1. They died inside the capsule on the left, unable to escape the fire. This is Chernobyl Elephant's Foot, a massive radiation from the reactor core meltdown. If you hang around it for too long, it becomes deadly, but not nearly as much as in 1986. It's so deadly that they had to use a set of mirrors to take this photograph. This photo was just taken after LBJ became president following the assassination of John F. Kennedy. In the front, you'll see Jackie Kennedy grieving her husband's death. LBJ turned toward his lifelong friend, Texas Congressman Albert Thomas, who gave him a wink and a smile.
Why did he wink and smile?
For people trying to reduce their screen time, there just might be a solution for you. A trend has been going around where people have started using dumb phones. So basically, instead of carrying around your smartphone, people have now started using these things. So the way that it works is that these phones don't have any social media or apps, and you only have access to your contacts for minimal texting and calling. Companies such as Pumped and Light Phones carry these, and they're sold starting at $300. And the entire purpose of this is to get people to stop scrolling on their phone for hours and hours. But what I find very interesting about this concept is that we as people do not have enough self-control to stop ourselves from scrolling for hours on these social media apps, that we have to go ahead and buy another phone so that we can control our addiction. I remember growing up, we had something very similar to this, but not on purpose. We just didn't have the technology that we have now. I literally had one of these as my first phone in grade 8, and I could only text and call, and I swear I had a limit of about 300 texts that I can send in 1 month. So when I went over that, the bill would be much higher and I would get in shit. These things did not have any apps or social media, so we didn't have the issues that we have now. So what do you guys think about this trend? Would you use it?
Here's the one.
I would try that trend.
This lady's phone background is the exact same as the picture on this truck. What are the chances? And the picture on the back of this RV lines up perfectly with the mountains. Now I want to know, did these two guys plan this? Because it spells out Cookie Monster. That cannot be a coincidence. And these two people are wearing opposite colored clothes and opposite color hair. Now they're definitely a perfect match. Now this one's crazy. They're wearing the same jacket, same scarf, and even have the exact same blue hair.
That's like a glitch in the Matrix, man. All those coincidences.
I'm sorry, but what did scientists just create? And how is no one talking about this? Trust me, favorite this video because this is the craziest news of the century. Scientists in Beijing just cloned and brought back dragons. But you might be wondering what I mean by brought back. Well, as it turns out, in early to mid last year, in the mountains of Taimoshan, actual dragon remains were found. Personally, I've waited a long time for this. I am a Targaryen! Using the method of carbon dating, they were approximated to be 15,000 years old. Even the scales were still visible. Now, they quickly acquired the DNA from the dragon remains and proceeded to combine it with the DNA and RNA of lizards that are alive today, such as with the Komodo dragon, with the iguana, and with the bearded dragon. Finally created an actual species of dragon. Now this was all leaked online by one of the researchers, coming out with emails between the researchers and the government, as well as picture proof. However, this is the part you're gonna go, what? In one of the emails, it was pointed out that one of the dragons that had been combined with a Komodo dragon had developed toxic venom. A venom which we have no cure for because, you know, we created the dragon! This is literally one of the most insane things I've ever spoken about on this channel. So send this to literally anyone you know to completely waste their time. Because I'm pretty sure all of these images are AI generated to fool us into thinking dragons existed. I'm pretty sorry.
It's about to say that's cap. Ooh, what the hell? Just like exploded. What the hell? Brave souls. These kids are heroes. Damn, what the hell? A river just burst right there? No way.
Resilience of the human spirit. Was this Reddit user actually abducted by aliens? Reddit user Seeker469 said that as a kid, he was spending the night at his aunt and uncle's house, which was out in the sticks in Tennessee. He was sleeping on the couch and woke up due to a bright light coming through the kitchen window into the living room. He was facing the light, which was white and slightly flickering, for about 10 minutes. Then he turned his head as it was keeping him awake. A few more minutes passed and he turned his head back towards the light and was about to go to sleep when he saw a tall, dark figure standing in front of him. He was frozen and could not move or scream. It approached him, reached out, and began tapping on his forehead with what felt like a nail or something pointed. He said that this went on for another few minutes until he must have fallen or was put to sleep. He woke up the next morning to a quiet house. He went to the bathroom and he had a red spot on his forehead. The skin was slightly broken, but there was no blood.
That cat was legit,
As of right
man.
now, this is definitely my top 10, absolutely top 5. It is easily one of the most uniquely effective horror movies. This movie is about a woman named Ella who is a stop-motion animator working with her mother. And when the mother becomes hospitalized, it is up to Ella to finish her mother's vision, which Ella doesn't really want to do. And with the help of this random little girl from down the hallway, Ella tries to create a film like no other. However, when the world of reality and the world of stop motion start to really bleed together, it's going to make you wonder for the entire runtime of the movie, what is real? Now, in my opinion, I absolutely loved this movie. I don't know if the director is a genius or accidentally one, because everything in this movie just somehow works, and it works without answering all of your questions. It is a very dreamlike and ethereal type movie, so from the start, you're kind of questioning about everything, which some people are going to love and some people are really not going to like. And it goes without saying, the stop motion animation in this is perfectly creepy. If you've seen any of the previous works of the director, take the weirdness and tone of that and put it into a movie. Now, as far as like what type of scares to be prepared for in this movie, it's a good mix of a lot of different things. A handful of jump scares here and there, but what is really effective is when the purpose of the movie is just to solely creep you out. But a warning to the squeamish, there are a couple of body horror scenes that can be kind of rough. They're extraordinarily well done. Just keep that in mind towards the end. Now, stop motion has a very limited run in theaters. Hopefully, there's more showings in the future. But the good news is, stop motion will be streaming on Shudder on May 31st. If you've seen this movie, what do you guys think?
Check that out. Stop motion, man. guys know I'm kind of into
Right,
scary
here we go
movies.
again. A time traveler from the year 2671 has warned us about these dates in 2024. So make sure to favorite this video so we can keep track of these dates and see if they were right.
You got it.
Let's hope they aren't. Let's start with January 23rd, 2024. A message is sent from an underground civilization known as the Splitting World. Essentially, we go under the Earth's crust to discover a whole new world. With a new kind of human, but of course, they want war. For fuck's sake! March 7th, 2024. A mirrored Earth is found inside our solar system and is the exact opposite to Earth. Essentially, yes, it is habitable, but the gravity and physics are completely different. On top of that, plants are red and the water's purple. What? Didn't think it could get weirder? You'd be wrong. Let's talk about April 15th, where SpaceX finds out how to make a spaceship travel the speed of light. However, like everything, this comes with its problems. Because apparently this is when we begin to meet alien life forms, who of course want to steal the light speed engine from us. Finally, we have June 29th, 10 days after my birthday. Mark your calendars. Where 197 mysterious statues appear around the world. One in every single country.
Ooh.
Apparently, we eventually find out that the statues were placed here to track and scare humanity. Mission succeeded. And they release many terrible things. Now, I did my research. I have no idea what terrible things means. Could you be more cryptic? There are literally so many more, so I think I'm going to do a part 2 tomorrow. And do you think any of these will come true? Elon!
No.
Secret safe under her floor.
Because they didn't.
Seriously won't believe what they found inside. One day, Joe and his daughter Rebecca were cleaning out her closet when they discovered a secret safe under the tile. They tried guessing the combination hundreds of times, but they couldn't get it open. Joe even posted on social media asking if anyone knew how to open the safe. And that's when a licensed locksmith saw the serial number and got the combination from the manufacturer. But you won't believe what they found inside. The safe was filled with water, so he grabbed some gloves and pulled out a solid gold coin, and it turns out it's actually worth $180.
These are
What?
some of the strangest graves in the world. In a small village located deep into the Philippines, there's a tribe that has a specific ritual. Every member that passes away is placed in a coffin and then nailed against the side of a mountain. The idea is their souls will be closer to God in the afterlife. And there's thousands of these coffins. And George Thomas was decapitated almost 200 years ago from an accident. And at his gravesite, a statue of him actually holds his head up. It's facing towards him so he can watch over his soul.
Whoa. You know, different people have different customs, man. They wanted to be more close, I guess, to their God, so that's what they did.
Unsolved mysteries. This photo shows all the world's mysteries from the most well-known to the darkest of the dark. In this series, we're going to be going through each category until we reach tier 10, which will apparently ruin my life and change the way we all see the world. So I'm pretty terrified. If you haven't watched the previous 3 parts now, if you have, stick around. Make sure to hit that follow button because stuff is going to get crazy. Today we're going to be looking at the Russian microwaves. Now this sounds really boring and weird, but it is so messed up. Basically, the Russian government started putting up these discs which look like satellite. They don't look like they cause any harm, but they eventually admitted they were using microwave technology and radiation, almost as some kind of weapon. But why? Well, these were actually planted near an American embassy. Lots of CIA operatives were, and spies. And a lot of these people got extremely ill and had to leave their jobs because of this radiation. Now, the theory is the Russian government were doing this on purpose, to get these spies out of the country. What do you think? Why else would they be using microwave weapons? Another cold case.
I ain't gonna lie, I can't. Nah, I believe that one, man. You know, man, people when they be messing with those waves of radiation, man, could truly get you sick. And he said there, I guess they were like U.S. agents or stuff there, and they were in Russia, so you probably know they wanted to get them out as quickly as possible, but they had to do it in a covert way. It's crazy to think we had that type of level of technology, man.
Case has been solved thanks to advanced DNA testing. Julianne Julie Williams and Laura Lolly Winans were both 24 years old when they went on a camping trip in Shenandoah National Park in Virginia in May 1996. The two had met through a group that organized outdoor adventures, so they were so excited to be going on this trip. They left on May 19th with plans to return on the 28th, and when they did not make it home, their family called the National Park Service to report them missing. Unfortunately, after an extensive search on June 1st, Julie and Lolly were found murdered at their campsite just off the Appalachian Trail. They had been bound and gagged and their throats had been slit, but their case quickly went cold and remained that way for the past 28 years. In 2021, the FBI assigned a new team in Richmond to review the case. The team began retesting evidence and submitted it to a private lab, which was able to pull DNA from several pieces of evidence. And last week, it was announced that the FBI had identified the man responsible for killing Julie and Molly. DNA retrieved from the evidence was entered into CODIS, and it came back as a match to convicted serial Walter Leo Jackson Sr. Jackson had a lengthy criminal history, including kidnapping and he was also known to visit the Shenandoah National Park. He was most recently sent to prison on multiple charges in 2011, and he ended up dying in prison in March 2018. So unfortunately, he will not have to face justice for what he did to Julie and Molly. But at least now their families have answers. The FBI has also said that they are continuing to investigate if Jackson can be connected to any other unsolved crimes and are asking for anybody with any information about him to come forward. Both Julie and Molly loved spending time outdoors and were so excited for their camping trip when their lives were so senselessly taken. Rest in peace, Julie and Molly.
Want to hear a truly eerie case? This is the bizarre disappearance of Brandon Swanson. On May 13, 2008, Brandon Swanson had just completed his first year at a local technical college where he lived in Marshall, Minnesota. That evening, he and some friends celebrated at a home nearby in Canby. According to friends at the party, Brandon seemed fine when he left the party just after midnight. Brandon was going to make the 30-minute drive back to his parents' home in Marshall. Almost an hour later at 1:15 a.m., Brandon got his car stuck in a ditch. He first called friends for assistance, but they didn't answer, so he called his parents and told them that he was stuck. When asked, he said he wasn't injured, and Brian and Annette, his parents, drove and reached their son's mentioned location to try and find him. But strangely, when they get there, they don't find Brandon nor the car. They get back on the phone with Brandon and begin flashing their headlights. Brandon said he could see a light in the distance and said he would walk towards it. Staying on the phone with his dad during his journey, Brandon told him that he passed some fences and could overhear water flowing in the distance. Shortly after 2:30 a.m., 47 minutes into their phone call, Brandon suddenly shouted, "Oh shit," and then silence. His parents hung up and tried to call back again and again, but there was no answer. His parents continue driving around searching for their son or the car, but can't find anything. The next day, police start their search, and to add to the mystery, investigators looked at Brandon's cell phone records, and it indicated that Brandon was actually 25 miles from where he said he was, in a town called Porter. This led to the discovery of his car in a ditch nearby. In the following months, police and volunteers combed the area on foot, horseback, and all-terrain vehicles. But to this day, Brandon has never been found. Brandon's state of mind has been called into question, but both friends at the party and Brandon's parents said that he seemed fine. Mysterious. Overall, a really sad case for Brandon's family. What are your thoughts?
I'm all thinking worst fears, man.
People who are 1 in a million, part 2. This is Gary Turner, but he's better known as the Elastic Man. He has a medical condition that causes his skin to be so stretchy that he can stretch the skin from his neck over his mouth. Next is Nanya Su, who's a boy with perfect night vision. His parents both have brown eyes, but he has blue eyes that glow when a light is shined. He claims that it's hard to see during the day, but while everyone sees this at night, this is what he sees. This is Paul Carrison, the real-life Papa Smurf. To fix his skin condition, he would drink silver and rub it on his skin every day, causing him to turn irreversibly blue. Finally, this man came into the hospital with severe chest pain, and doctors were shocked when they discovered he had 2 hearts, and he had suffered a double heart attack.
This truck driver took the life of 5 people because he was distracted on TikTok. The morning of January 12, 2023, 36-year-old Danny Tyner was driving on Interstate 10 in Arizona when he drove his tractor trailer in to stop the traffic. This scene is so difficult to look at, but basically his truck sandwiched 2 other cars with another big truck at the front. These are the 5 victims that lost their lives on that day, and when Danny was asked what happened, he said that he looked down for a couple of seconds because he got a notification on his work tablet, and when he looked back up, there was not enough time to brake. But that wasn't true. When his phone was analyzed, it showed that he was actively using TikTok when the crash happened. Now, what I found disturbing was that during his interaction with police, he didn't seem too fazed. He was eventually charged with manslaughter and was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison for each count of negligent homicide, which totaled to 22.5 years.
This is the
Man, I'm telling you guys, when you out driving, man, just do not be on your phone, man. Like I said, social media is a distraction, man. That's basically what it was made for. So why would you even attempt to even like look at it while you're driving, bro? That's just doesn't make sense to me. Look at the result of what happened, man. Multiple senses, man, because you just wanted to scroll on TikTok, man. TikTok cannot be, well, we know it's that addicting, man, where you just want to keep scrolling and scrolling, but you drive and you don't have that luxury.
Tragic story of the Boy Scout who made his entire neighborhood radioactive. Nicknamed the Nuclear Boy Scout, David Hahn was a teenager from Michigan who was obsessed with nuclear radiation. When he was only 15, David attempted to build a nuclear reactor in his backyard shed, using radioactive material from household items including vintage clocks, smoke detectors, and gun sights. Within 2 years, David had built a functioning reactor which gave off enough radiation to be detected throughout his entire neighborhood.
Damn.
David was soon caught by police when they found hazardous materials in his car during a routine stop and thought he was building an atomic bomb. When David's shed was raided by the EPA, they determined that his project had created dangerous levels of radiation, leading them to dismantle the building and classify it as hazardous waste. This mugshot from 2006 shows David covered in sores as a result of his extensive exposure to radiation. This, combined with continuous legal and mental health issues, led to David's early passing at the age of 39 from an accidental overdose.
Wanted to become like Adam Man or something.
Superpowers, Part 2. The Super Coffee Drinker, BDNF. Carriers of this gene remain completely unaffected to the effects of caffeine from coffee, and can often easily get a night's sleep after drinking a cup. The perfect memory gene, HSAM. If you are lucky enough to be born with this gene, you will have almost a perfect memory. However, it's extremely rare with only 25 confirmed cases. The Super Sprinter gene, ACTN3. People with these genes are able to run extra fast, as these genetics give your muscles a higher flexing rate, which gives them more explosive power.
Speed
the
got that.
alcohol immunity gene, ALDH2. Having this super rare gene will mean you will never be able to experience being drunk with your friends, and you might have a lot of explaining to do, as it gives you total immunity from the effects of being drunk.
Imagine if everybody had that, the world would be a safer place, man. Everybody's immune to alcohol. Whew. And the speed definitely got the freaking sprinter gene, bro. I know what I'm talking about. He's too fast. That's the only explanation.
This is how rare your body is compared to the rest of the world. Only 10% of people have something called Darwin's tubercle. It's this little bump on the outside of your ear. And it's said that people who have this are better at sensing voice tonality. 10% of people also have what's called Morton's toe. This is where your big toe is shorter than the toe next to it. Only 26% of people have a narrator inside their head. Most people don't hear a voice when they think. What's even more rare is only 5% of people have their tongues tied to their mouth. I thought everyone had this. Everyone flares their nostrils subconsciously, but only 30% of people can do it on command. Less than 1% of people have unbreakable bones, making you basically superhuman. Only about 35% of people can gleek, and only 1% can do it on command. And gleeking is when you squirt saliva from underneath your tongue.
Any secretary, can you guys gleek, bro? I've seen that before. I've always wanted to know what that was, man. I finally got an answer. It's called gleeking, bro. Shoot saliva through your tongue. That's a very, I guess, rare skill set. You got any gleekers, man, in the comments? Oh, that's insane, bro.
This incident has made people on the internet so upset because this woman went up to a teen and pulled down her skirt because she thought it was too short. Even if you think this skirt is too short, I think we can all agree that you cannot go up to a child and touch them. The teen said that this woman approached her from behind and basically put her hand in her area. This woman, who's a 49-year-old Ida Lorenzo, said to the girl and her friends, "I happen to work for the state, and if I have to see your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS.
I happen to work for the state, and if I have to watch your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS.
Now, let's be real for a second. If this was a man who did this to a young girl, police would be called immediately and there would be no excuses. They were waiting at a restaurant to be seated and she basically felt like it was inappropriate for this young girl to be dressed like this in front of everyone. Which, if you feel that way, then you can leave. You should never be putting your hands on anyone. She was eventually charged with sexual battery, which I'm glad, because you can't be putting your hands on anyone, especially kids.
People who are 1 in a million.
Explained it
This girl's
perfectly.
name is Zhang Rufeng, and she is over 100 years old. But a few years ago, something strange happened. She started growing a horn on her head. At first, it started off small, but now it's grown up to 6 centimeters in length. But the craziest part is, she's actually starting to grow a second horn on the other side. And doctors have offered to remove it from her head, but she refuses. Before I show you the craziest one, I just found a way you can find your celebrity lookalike, and apparently I look like Mr. Beast. If you want to know who your celebrity lookalike is, just press this link in the comments. Next up is Nang Yasoi, and he has perfect night vision. And the strange part about this is both his parents have brown eyes, but he has blue eyes. When everyone else sees darkness, he sees perfectly in the middle of the night.
The rarest things found on Earth. This is a red diamond, and it is one of the rarest material known to man. Because of that, they are way more expensive than normal diamonds. This tiny one is worth around $25 million.
Damn.
And this is a corpse flower. It's basically a giant flower that smells like rotting flesh, and it can only be found in remote areas in Indonesia. Imagine having one of these in your garden. And this small and beautiful sea creature is a blue dragon. It's only a few inches big, but it eats deadly jellyfish every day for food.
The more you know. I want that freaking red diamond.
A Russian
You
scientist
gotta find
injected
it.
himself with this ancient bacteria to see what would happen. Dr. Anatoly Brushkov discovered bacteria deep within the permafrost of Siberia that was 3.5 million years old, and somehow it was still alive. It was named Bacillus F, and after doing some experiments on it, he realized the bacteria not only seemed to be immune to aging, but also appeared to have a life-extending effect on almost every organism it touched. He tested the strain on female mice who were able to continue reproducing into old age, much older than the average mice could, and when he exposed it to crops, they grew faster and were more frost resistant. The town of Yakut, Siberia, close to where this bacteria was found, also happens to be one of the coldest human settlements on Earth, with their population reporting longer lifespans than average humans, perhaps due to Bacillus F leaking into their water supply. Dr. Brushkov was so convinced he said "F it" and injected himself with the ancient bacterium to test it out firsthand. 2 years later, he reported dramatic improvements to his general health, claiming to need less sleep, working longer hours, and just having more energy in his day-to-day life. He also allegedly hasn't gotten sick since he injected himself with it, with him and his colleagues starting to call it the elixir of life. Dr. Brushkov did this in 2013 and claims to be in the best health of his life today. And I'm sure Big Pharma loves the idea of a miracle life potion that would potentially lose them billions of dollars a year in revenue, so we definitely should not question any articles that debunk this find. To be fair, these effects aren't exactly 100% confirmed and could very well be a placebo effect, but that sure didn't stop others from hopping on the Bacillus F bandwagon. German actress Manouche began self-medicating the bacteria and reported being able to go for longer runs, feeling less cold in the winter, and her skin just feeling softer and younger. Brushkov and his team insist the effects of Bacillus F are clear and significant, although they admit they're not yet sure why it has the effect it does. But if they can manage to isolate the gene responsible for the positive benefits of the bacteria, they may have just discovered the ultimate elixir of life. As long as there isn't, you know, a whole ass industry with infinite money that tries to stop it.
The elixir of life. I gotta believe that, man. Like I said, it could be a placebo effect, but I mean, if you can inject yourself with a million years old bacteria, you have to be pretty sure to do that. I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. Go down that rabbit hole.
Kids' Toys Ever, Part 51. Mr. Bucket, released in 1990, discontinued twice and brought back. But what was the problem? Well, the shape of the mouth didn't help. But the only thing they actually changed were the words in the jingle. A certain part they decided to cut out.
I'm Mr. Bucket. I'm Mr. Bucket. Toss your balls in my top. I'm Mr. Bucket. Out of my mouth,
Extinct animals, scientists are close to reviving. Firstly, the woolly mammoth. It was believed to have gone extinct 25,000 years ago, but scientists discovered hundreds that just died recently. So they're planning to put its DNA inside African elephants, and they expect to bring them back in the next 5 years. Next, dodo birds were hunted to extinction 400 years ago, but a preserved head was recently discovered. By mixing that DNA with a maimed pigeon, dodo birds should be coming back in 15 years. Finally, expect to see saber-toothed tigers outside soon, because scientists discovered DNA preserved in tar pits, and they plan to combine it with African lions. So this 10-inch tooth beast should be coming back in 10 years.
That's throwing off the environment, man. They shouldn't be doing that.
Never slice tomatoes this way. So when this guy noticed that his boss was slicing tomatoes one by one, wasting a lot of time, he decided to show him a trick that everyone should know. He took a plate, put a few tomatoes on it, covered them with another plate, and in one move, he sliced more tomatoes than his boss in an hour.
This pedophile artist still has an incredibly successful career after he was convicted. Meet Nobuhiro Watsuki. So Nobuhiro is from Japan. He was born in Tokyo, and he started drawing from a very early age. Eventually, Nobuhiro began publishing his manga. He started winning awards and began making a name for himself in anime. Now, a lot of people will recognize this guy's art, his works, but his most popular work has to be Rurouni Kenshin. I totally said that wrong, I'm sure. For decades, Nobuhiro was one of the biggest manga artists and authors in all of Japan. Like I said, receiving a lot of awards. But in 2017, Japanese police raided Nobuhiro's office. And inside of his office, they found 100 DVDs. Each one of these DVDs contained CP or CSAM. And all of these videos and photos featured children in their early teens. I mean, absolutely disgusting stuff. But what did the authorities in Japan do after finding this? Was he given a long prison sentence? 100 DVDs is a lot. Nope, he was fined about $1,500. That's right, he served 0 time in jail or prison and had to pay $1,500. And then shortly afterwards, his serialization of his manga continued, basically as if nothing had ever happened. Now, I'm not really a manga anime guy, but I'm sure that a lot of people on here are, and will definitely recognize this work. And I'm sure that a lot of the people that read this stuff don't know the history of the author. And in my mind, somebody who's convicted of a crime like this should never be supported in any sort of way. Financially, artistically, it doesn't matter. This is the type of guy that should be cut off from society. But he was pretty unrepentant, obviously, a $1,500 fine. I would definitely myself encourage Japanese authorities to go check this guy's hard drives nowadays. But as for now, he's pretty much untouched.
Have you ever seen a Mickey
insane,
Mouse
man.
gas mask? These were made to calm terrified children. About a month after Pearl Harbor, Walt Disney was in Washington, D.C. to design and discuss Mickey Mouse gas masks for children. 1,000 of these were produced and given away to key members of Congress to help support the project. At the time, President Roosevelt even received one. Walt Disney also came up with drawing designs for Pluto and Three Little Pigs gas masks, although these ones never reached production. They attempted to keep the fun element in something as grim as gas raids. During these raids, children would be persuaded to regard the whole thing as a game.
That's crazy, man. A freaking Mickey Mouse gas mask? Makes you wonder, man, what other freaking, I guess, companies and stuff made things in that time. But like I said, there was only 1,000 of them, so obviously it was a limited number. That was just a dark time, man, in history. Kids had to think it was a game.
And curtain number 1 is... Correct! Wait.
That's an edit.
You don't remember what she looks like?
You call them out.
Here are the craziest things to ever happen at Walmart. So one day, an 18-year-old was craving milk. So he decided to steal not 1, not 2, but 26 gallons of milk from Walmart. Oh, and he did this dressed as a cow. And if that doesn't sound weird enough to you, you'd be surprised to learn that even though he made himself stand out in the cow costume, he managed to not get caught on the spot. Next, on Black Friday in 2013, a customer and his son were freaking out in Walmart because they thought that his ex-wife was possessed by a demon. And so they locked her in their car and set up an exorcism in the parking lot by throwing sacred oil at her, which might have been the reason why they ended up divorcing. Also, back in 2013, a 16-year-old was going into labor, and she gave birth in a Cannon City Walmart bathroom. Now, there was panic for a moment because the baby wasn't breathing, but luckily, one of the store's employees were CPR certified and they revived the baby. I guess Walmart really can help you live better. And finally, in 2011, at a Walmart in South Carolina, customers witnessed a man named Avery Blandon end the life of his wife, Lilia Blandon. while she was working inside the store's bank. Avery stabbed her multiple times, and she sadly passed away on the way to the hospital. He then tried to escape the scene, but he crashed his SUV and was caught by police. But what's weird is that the store stayed open during the investigation, only in Walmart.
Did you guys see this
They
video
do not
of these
care,
two planes
man.
that almost crashed into each other in midair? It was all caught by this police officer's dash cam. This all happened last month in Syracuse, New York, when a Delta airplane was cleared to take off, while at the same time an American airline airplane was cleared to land in the same runway. So the Delta airplane was on its way to LaGuardia Airport while the American airline plane was arriving from Washington Reagan Airport. What's crazy is that these two planes were only 725 feet away from each other in the air, but from the ground's point of view, they looked so much closer. At one point, the two planes were side by side, and that should not be happening for obvious reasons, which is why the job of an air traffic controller is so important. And this error was completely on the air traffic controller, who shouldn't have cleared both airplanes at the same time. It's still unclear why and how this happened, but they're still investigating. Thankfully, both planes did not collide, and all 159 passengers are safe.
It's official.
That's insane to think about, man. Like, they were literally like that close. Like, there's like a hair off if something happened, man. Like she said, it was the air trafficker's job. That they need to, whoever's there that day, they had to get their freaking job reviewed or something like that, because they obviously was not paying attention. Flights, man, one of the most scariest things, man, that can happen. Fun fact, I've never been on an airplane before yet. I've never flown yet, so that just raises my anxiety.
Aliens exist. These are the remains of non-human creatures. They were presented to a hearing in Mexico's Congress, which is investigating unidentified anomalous phenomena. The hearing was told that the specimens were found in Peru in 2017 and apparently are 700 and 1800 years old. People online were quick to compare the likeness to that of E.T. from the movie. One user wrote, "No way, they can't be that small. Those are mutated cats." But looking at a picture that was released of their skull, this is no cat, which is eerily similar to a skull they found in 2021. What's worse is experts testified under oath that one of them is seen to have eggs inside it, and both specimens were said to have implants made of very rare metals. And even though the aliens are pretty small, you can tell that this is clearly something different. I ain't gonna lie, this guy looks like he doesn't want to go to work tomorrow. Let's take one last look. Do you believe in aliens?
Morbid fact.
Do you?
Part 402. George Lopez has a genetic condition that caused his kidneys to slowly deteriorate. So when he needed a new kidney in 2005, his wife Ann gave him one of her own. A couple years later, George reportedly cheated on his wife, then divorced her in 2010, all while wearing her kidney. The first scientist to observe penguins engaging in gay intercourse, grape, and necrophilia was so disturbed that he tried to obscure his findings to prevent people from knowing the truth about penguins. In 1995, a substitute school bus driver in Illinois stopped at a red light with the back part of the bus still on some train tracks. The children were screaming for her to move the bus forward as a train approached, but she was confused about what they meant. The train struck the bus at 60 miles per hour and 7 children were killed. In 2018, Gloria Williams pleaded guilty to posing as a nurse to abduct Kamaya Mobley from her mother's arms in the maternity ward. She was sentenced to 18 years in prison, the same length of time Kamaya was separated from her birth family.
People freaking out nurses now? That was a dark case, man.
In 2011,
That was not it.
4-year-old Gabby Mann was living in Seattle, Washington with her family. One day, she dropped a chicken nugget onto the ground, and before she could pick it up, a neighborhood crow swooped down and took the free lunch. And because Gabby was a messy eater, she continued to drop food everywhere she went, and so she continued to inadvertently feed these crows. She grew to really enjoy the attention, and so she started feeding them huge portions of her lunch. When Gabby's mother discovered where most of her daughter's food was going, she wasn't upset. She was just worried her daughter wasn't getting enough to eat. They would go out and buy some food just for the crows. She and her mom began feeding the crows every day. Gabby went outside one morning to refill the peanut tray when she noticed there was a small earring. Over the following few weeks, when more and more little trinkets started showing up, Gabby's mom installed a camera. She was amazed to see the crows would come in and they would eat their food, and then they would leave behind these shiny little trinkets. But the crows' most astonishing gift came the following year. Gabby's mother was an avid photographer, and one day she was out by herself photographing a bald eagle. She managed to drop a lens cover to one of her cameras. That night, when she got back to her house, she couldn't believe what was sitting there. She ran back inside and pulled up the footage from the bird camera, and there it was, a crow coming into the yard with the lens cap in its mouth. This behavior is very significant because it means the relationship between the crows and Gabby and her mom was not a transactional one. Today, Gabby and her mother still feed the crows every single day, and the crows still love Gabby and her mother.
Okay,
It's like good karma coming back to
a
you.
pharmaceutical company that's trialing a new groundbreaking age reversal pill had such good results that the local news wanted to run a story on them. But before they even could publish the video, the chairman and CEO died. You see, 6 months ago, this 12-year-old German Shepherd was near death. He had terminal cancer, was operated on, and his prognosis wasn't looking good. The dog's caretaker knew that an age reversal trial was being conducted on dogs, and so she asked if Zeus could be a part of it due to his dire situation. The pill's aim is to lengthen telomere caps on human stem cells, because as part of the aging process, our telomeres shorten, which increases the chance of age-related diseases and, of course, death.
If you can increase telomeres, you can reproduce stem cells and keep repairing things so that you can get literally younger.
They said that in their drug's preclinical data from a previous in vitro human cell study, it showed that the medication lengthened telomeres by almost 200%. Zeus was granted access to the medication in April, and his caretaker said that she saw results almost immediately.
He's doing marvelously. He goes out to our pool and he swims and he has fun and he plays with the tennis ball.
A recent scan showed that the cancer in his body had completely disappeared, and the results were so remarkable that she asked for more to give another 12-year-old dog that could hardly walk due to arthritis. Just last week, she said that he had started galloping and running again. But then, despite all of that, he hit us with this.
And we are sad to report that since this interview was conducted, Dr. Christopher Chapman has recently passed away.
On the company's website, they announced his passing, saying, out of respect and privacy for Dr. Chapman's family, details of the 71-year-old's passing will not be made available. And then added that to support the new chairman and CEO, 3 telomere directors have voluntarily resigned. Human trials for this drug are planned for mid-2025.
The rarest things in the world.
What do you think happened?
Vaquita, only 10 left in the wild. Rarest gem on earth, Painite, worth $60,000 per carat. Rarest poker hand, the royal flush, 1 in 655,000 chance. Rarest element on earth, as the time, less than 1 gram on earth exists. Rarest car, Ferrari 250 Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo? Didn't they make a movie about that?
Okay, this is getting hard to believe, but there has just been reports of a second wave of explosions in Lebanon, but this time it's people's walkie-talkies. So yesterday, Hezbollah fighters' pagers, today, their radios. Initial reports are saying that the most recent wave of explosions have caused cars and houses to be set on fire, and there were even reports, this one's crazy, that one exploded at a funeral of someone who died from yesterday's explosions. And while I'm on the topic of explosions, you're going to see a lot of reports of people saying explosive devices found at Trump rally, even going as far as saying third assassination attempt, question mark. Let me just save you some time. That is a false report. There's going to be a lot of corrections. Don't worry about it. I'll keep you updated.
Imagine being kidnapped, locked in a basement, and then when the police come, they just leave you there to die. Back in the 1980s, many girls in Belgium were just randomly vanishing without a trace. This guy right here, Mark Detroit, was the guy guy who was doing all of this. Now, in his early years, he had a lot of relationship issues and ended up marrying his second wife, Michelle Martin, this woman right here. What these two would do together genuinely will make you feel sick. Major trigger warning: if you're easily scared, please just keep on scrolling right now. This is your final warning. On June the 7th, 1985, they took their first victim, who was an 11-year-old girl walking home from school, which they kidnapped. They took her back to their place, armed her, and then took a photo of her after this before just releasing her. Now, they did this tons of times before actually being caught by the police the first time, but then it got far worse. So they were both arrested but got a very, very short sentence and were out in no time. Mark was released in 1992 after serving literally 3 years in prison for all of this. Of course, the reason they were caught the first time was because the victims they let go free had reported them, so they built this literal dungeon in the basement of the house where they would keep people. He went on to kidnap at least 6 people in the space of a couple of years and left them all in here. At this time, the news was going crazy in the local area because tons of girls were going missing. No one knew where they were, but they were all in here. Now, even crazier again, Mark's own mother actually reported him to the police and they still didn't go round. And she even told the police that he literally had girls captive in the basement right now, and the police did nothing. Not long after this, though, Mark was actually arrested for something completely separate, stealing a car, and he told his wife she would have to keep the girls in the basement alive by watering them and feeding them. Yeah. Now, by far, the most angering part of this whole story is that the police finally went round and did a check on the house. He literally heard children screaming, begging for help, and they walked out. They did nothing. Because apparently it sounded like the screams were coming from outside, and just kids playing prank or something. Like, what? There was even undeveloped camera film on the side here, which they just didn't develop, but if they did, they would have seen literally everything. Now, apparently, this woman was too scared to go into the basement and look after the girls, so tragically passed away. When he finally got out, he started again, and more girls started vanishing, until eventually someone came forward after spotting him in a van, basically while in the act. He then confessed, showed the police the whole basement and everything, and even showed them where some bodies of people were. He also reportedly had another accomplice that they had a disagreement, and he unalived him and buried him in the house as well. After the whole case came to a close, she got 30 years in jail, and he got a life sentence.
And got 0 prison time after stabbing her boyfriend 108 times. In 2018, 26-year-old Chad O'Melia's life was savagely taken in his apartment in California by his girlfriend. 33-year-old Bryn Spetcher says that on this day, she was tricked by Chad into smoking a highly potent strain of marijuana, which caused her to go into psychosis. She says that she remembers immediately walking into the kitchen and grabbing several knives and stabbed her dog before going after Chad and taking his life. Bryn then turned the knife on herself and attempted to take her own life before police arrived. And authorities also said that it wasn't easy restraining Bryn and that the taser didn't even work on her. Now, Bryn's defense argues that she reacted this way because she only smoked less than 6 times in her life, which that combined with the high potent marijuana explains why she took her boyfriend's life. Bryn ended up only receiving just 2 years of probation, 100 hours of community service, and no prison time.
News that
What do you
will
think
give
about that?
you hope. A missing 5-year-old who walked out the back door was found in a nearby river and rescued by a Florida officer. A Burger King employee who went viral recently for working 27 years and only receiving a goodie bag from Burger King was able to buy a house thanks to the donations from going viral. A man was finally arrested in a 1973 cold case. Long Beach, California has fixed nearly half of its 63,000 potholes. A stray dog that was desperate to be picked up by a pup bus got adopted. We have discovered that microplastics can be removed from water when you boil it. A California cat traveled 800 miles back home after getting lost at Yellowstone National Park. Thailand has recently seen a 250% increase in the number of tigers in the country.
The creepiest
Stay out of
places
Thailand.
in the world.
Lake Natron, Tanzania.
Due to high levels of salt contents, everything that touches the lake turns to pure stone.
Hello, my friend. That is not accurate. Lake Natron is a mineral-rich lake in Tanzania. Despite its high pH levels, it has some animals that live in it, including the Alclipia fish. The misconception that it turns anything that touches it to stone comes from these photographs. Basically, animals pass away for whatever reason, fall into the water, and become like mummified. A photographer found such animals at Lake Natron, but placed them in a position so they'd for the sake of the photo, which led to some awesome results. Also, this lake is actually where flamingos go to mate. If you're there at the right time, you will see millions.
Playing some optical illusion with our eyes, man. It's all a trick. Goes to show how easy it is, but a picture can manipulate a whole story, man. You don't even know. You debunked that,
Celebrity plastic surgery disasters. Anthony Lofredo before. After.
He didn't look like an
Sandra
alien.
Tabar before. After. Michael Jackson before. After.
We don't have it with Jackson.
Jocelyn Wildenstein before. After.
Yeah, she wanted to look like a
Melanie
cat.
Martinez before. After. Donatella Versace before. After. Igor and Grichka Bogdanov before. After.
How do people do that?
This mother was found brutally murdered while her quadruplet toddlers were found covered in her blood. Sheila Bellish was a mother of 6. She had her 2 older daughters from a previous marriage with a man named Alan Blackthorne. After her divorce, she then had her 4 beautiful toddlers right here with this man named Jamie Bellish. On the evening of November 7th, 1997, Sheila was found by her oldest daughter here. After she came home from school, she saw her mother on the floor with her throat slit, and her 4 younger siblings, the quadruplets, were literally crawling all over their mother's blood. Now, when you see this family, they look perfect and happy, but Sheila's past with her ex-husband is very messy. This is Sheila's ex-husband, Alan Blackthorne, and he made her life a living nightmare. So much so that she had to move her entire family from Texas all the way to Florida just to get away from him. Alan was very rich, and a lot of people described him as obnoxious and just a shitty person, but after his divorce with Sheila, he owed her over $1 million for their divorce settlement. He was not happy about that at all, so he hired this man, Jose Luis del Toro, to take Sheila's life. Jose broke into Sheila's house where no one was there except for her and her 4 toddlers, and he watched as she interacted with her babies, and he said that at one point he wanted to leave because he felt bad, but then he ended up just going through with it and he took her life. This case is extremely devastating. These 4 toddlers were forced to grow up without their mother, and then the daughter who basically saw her mother in that state, which no child should ever have to, and then not only did they lose their mother, but they also lost their father through this process. Alan Blackthorne was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in federal prison without the possibility of parole. And the hitman, Jose Luis del Toro, he did avoid the death penalty. Instead, he was given life in prison without the possibility of parole.
South Carolina, it's
someone.
your turn to be shamed for having creepy things. This is a gigantic children's museum that is a boy that you can go inside its body and look at its body parts. And this is how big it is compared to humans. Yeah, his name is Eddie, and this is called Adventure, and it's in South Carolina. And look how tiny the people are compared to just its shoe. You can sit in the chair and take a picture with Eddie. I'd rather not. This is inside of Eddie's head, and you can see his eyeballs and his teeth. Also, if the children don't have faces, it's because I had to blur them out. So they might look like demons. You know what this reminds me of, though? When you're in the tubes at Chuck E. Cheese and you're trying to get your mom's attention. But yeah, look how absolutely massive that thing is compared to these kids. No. You can go on this catwalk and look at him, or you can literally just go inside him, like I said. Imagine it at night when all the lights of the museum go off and you can look through the window and see it in the pitch darkness. Look, this is Eddie's brain. You can go down these slides. There's a bunch of like interactive stuff for kids, like actually climbing up and going through his heart, stuff like that. It's nightmare fuel. Kids probably aren't scared though. Meanwhile, I would be. But yeah, have you seen Eddie? Will you go see Eddie? He is in South Carolina. Y'all are going to have to tell him that I said hello because I'm not going.
Before and after images that will shock you.
desolate. Were they messing with that tomb, bro? Some Tomb Raiders? I thought you wasn't supposed to mess with that. That's looked like a significant piece of history. They couldn't help themselves, could they?
Well, I heard someone said your body, my choice. I agree. The best one. It is a sickness. So here's how nature deals with that. Bonobos actually have a system where if one female gets pressed by a male and she's not feeling him, she'll let out a cry, and every female in the group will pull up and put the beats on dude until he learns respect. They actually managed to nerf male aggression through the power of friendship. So you know, when a new male lion takes over a pride, the first thing he does is cancel any cubs that didn't come from his. Well, sometimes the lionesses ain't having it. Sometimes they jump the new guy. There was one case in Masai Mara where a male tried to steal food from some cubs and got absolutely obliterated by the mothers. They castrated him. I can't even show you that picture. The biggest threat to a baby bear is a bigger male, and some mother bears will purposely live closer to people, knowing that's the only thing keeping her biggest ops away. Ironically, some bears choose the man. Funny. When a capybara wants to dub a guy, she'll dive into the nearest body of water and just sit there for as long as it takes. By the way, the guinea pig can stay under 5 minutes. Female dragonflies will fake their deaths to avoid male attention. Like they'll freeze in midair, crash to the ground, and just lay there and pray that stops them. Sometimes it doesn't. Some anacondas will seemingly let the male score, only to strangle him to a flat line and then eat him alive. The more you know.
Don't ever use a public bathroom again. This, my friends, is Akamata. Plus, drop a like, tag a friend, or she might get you. Akamata is a Japanese ghost that haunts and kills people in public bathrooms. They said that she'll walk up to you and ask you a series of questions. These are extremely important. The most important question being, would you rather choose red or blue? If you choose red, she'll chop you up into a million pieces. If you choose blue, she'll choke you to death until your face is blue. If you try to avoid the question entirely and choose a different color, she will drag you to hell to be never seen again. My question to you guys is it worth not waiting till you get home?
I haven't used public bathrooms like that, but only when
I
it's
didn't think it was
necessary.
possible, but this line was even more of a menace than I imagined. Like, I knew he was a hater, but I rewatched the doc, bro. This was Kitty King Von. The more lore you get, the crazier. First, his name, Etoile Dumela, actually isn't Swahili. I was sorry to blame the documentary, but I watched. They never said it was Swahili. I think I made it my bad. But yeah, Etoile Dumela's name is Siswana, or Sisutu, and it roughly translates to, if you want the smoke, we'll bring the fire to your front door. First red flag, he ran a pride with his brother Mandevu, but while Mandevu was only after that, Etoile Dumela didn't care, he craved conflict. Now here's where he earns his name. His pride was beefing with a clan of hyenas, and we're talking blood feud. You know how bad? Animals mark their scent, but usually predators don't care about the scent mark of other predators. It got so personal, the lead hyena would go out of her way to mark over the pride scent mark. And for reference, that's like painting over the set. And when you realize what hyenas mark with, you see the disrespect. Look up hyena butter. It's not the type you put on popcorn. Now add the fact they were harassing members of his pride, and you knew. Etoile Dumela was not letting it slide. Here's what he did. One night the Yeens and Lions were going at it, and Etoile Dumela went straight for the matriarch and broke her back. Didn't even finish it, just cracked her like a glow stick and left like a sneaky link. Hyenas live in a complex hierarchy, so by crippling the leader, he basically tactically nuked their entire army. Now the diabolical part was the matriarch had a daughter who would have inherited the lead position, but because Etoile Dumela went and bad-beat her mom, she lost all her status and got forced out the clan. So let's review. In one move, he assassinated the leader, left her to suffer, orphaned her daughter, ruined her future, destroyed her legacy, and caused the hyena civil war while ending theirs. Yeah, Etoile Dumela got it. You've never heard a hyena stutter.
The 11-year-old sole survivor of a family.
And 6 steps, bro. My man completed the Black Air Force Energy, bro, trial. I don't know how he did that, bro. Man, don't mess with him, man. Him and his brother, they run that jungle, bro.
Family massacre in Fall City, Washington, played dead after her teenage brother allegedly opened fire at her. 5 members of the family, parents Mark and Sarah Humiston, and their children Catherine, 7, Joshua, 9, and Benjamin, 13, were killed in the shooting. The 11-year-old daughter watched in horror as her 15-year-old brother checked his victims' bodies for signs of life. After he shot her in the hand and the neck, she decided to play dead and escaped through a window after he left her room. The suspect was charged in juvenile court with 5 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of attempted murder.
This is why a notorious Colombian hit woman known as The Doll was just arrested by police yesterday for several high-profile hits, including her ex-boyfriend. And no, none of you in the comments can fix her. It's reported that 23-year-old Karen Rodriguez was labeled as highly dangerous by police and that she was in the midst of a career expansion, leading a small team of hitmen conducting a spree of
you-know-what in the region prior to her arrest. And after her capture went viral online, people pointing out how much she looks like actor Aubrey Plaza are now calling for a movie to be made and for her to star as the doll character.
Shocking facts you didn't know about power cuts. 40% of adults in the UK admit their first call would be to their mum and dad during a power cut. Who would you call? The UK's most memorable power cut happened in 1978 during national strikes. 1 in 5 British people surveyed said they would sit in the dark until the power comes back on and hope someone else solves the problem. The 2003 power cut left 500,000 people without electricity for hours. Almost half of the adults in the UK admitted they don't know about the 105 emergency helpline number. What if you or someone you love need support during a power cut? Get prepared and learn more at nationalgrid.co.uk/getswitchedon.
The weirdest world records of
Cutting power in the
In
UK.
2011, a cheerleading team of 20 people set a world record. This record was fitting every single person into this tiny smart car. Now here's an interesting record that was broken by a woman in Japan. She popped 123 balloons with just her butt in 1 minute. I guess leg day really does pay off.
People you won't believe exist. Eli Thompson. He was born without a nose. Paul Carrison. His skin color is purple-blue.
Why? We heard about the blue people before.
Isaiah Acosta. He was born without jaw and ability to speak, but become a rapper.
I never heard any of his work.
B. Melvin. She has naturally white hair since birth.
Yeah, she looked like a. Oh, she has that Targaryen hair.
Darina Spingler. She was born without chin and lips.
You learning, Seekers? So I watch these clips with you guys, man. Expanding my knowledge base every day.
Stillwater. We've already talked about Stillwater, but I had a dream last night that I fell in some still water, so I'm going to make it everyone else's problem. Stillwater is, get this, when water is still. It mostly occurs in like abandoned places, obviously, because there's no, vacuum keeping the water moving. So it's very, very dangerous, as we've already talked about. There are like a bunch of like brain-eating amoebas probably in here, and don't fall in it. I found this picture on Reddit, and my soul left my body. Why does that look like a wig? Why does it look like the Grudge is in chocolate milk, and it's coming to kill me? This one looks like Shrek and Fiona had some fun in it, if you get my drift. This one is more liminal spaces, but the decals of, are those whales or dolphins, on the bottom of the pool would send me into cardiac arrest. Any pools that have anything on the bottom of them, like a decal or something, count me out, because I'm already scared there's a shark in there. Why are there so many abandoned pools that have not been cleaned out? Why? This abandoned YMCA with this water sitting in there for like 5 to 10 years? Why? Yeah, Stillwater is dangerous, y'all. Don't mess with it. This is horrifying. I don't know why it's so much less scary to think about falling in water that is, aerated, no movement is so much scarier. How do you feel about Stillwater?
Do not watch
Stay away from
because
it.
It will unalive you. Why is this known as the most deadly film on Earth? Movie Antrim is about 2 siblings who accidentally dig a hole that leads to hell. It's reportedly caused over 60 unalives, and when you start the film it even comes up with a legal warning that you have to read. Need people mysteriously passing away after watching this film. So, this actually released in 2018, but the actual original Antrim released in 1970. Rumoured to have been completely lost because you cannot find it anywhere, even though there is documentation of it being shown in theatres, which I'll get to. So, several film festivals who received the movie back in the 70s, people that got it vanished, passed away. But by far the craziest, a movie theatre completely catching alight while the film was being screened.
In 1988, in Budapest, the film Antrim was showed. It burned down and unalived 56 people. This is an actual photo from the scene. This is 100% real. There is still no trace what caused this fire, and the reel that the film played off remained intact, completely unharmed. All of these events caused Antrim to become the most cursed film and dangerous film on the planet. You can watch this new version. As I say, it has a pretty severe warning at the start, but I do not recommend it. Let me know in the comments if you've seen it.
He broke a world record because police forgot about him. In 1979, 18-year-old Andreas Mijovich was taken into police custody following a car accident. Now, he was simply the passenger of the car and had absolutely no involvement with the wreck. But despite this, he was placed in a basement holding cell by Austrian police. Now, he should have been promptly released, but they kind of forgot about him. The 3 officers who were all involved with the case all thought that another one had already released him. It wasn't until the room he was in began to smell that they found him 18 days later. During his incarceration, he had lost over 50 pounds and survived by drinking condensed water on the prison walls. His mother repeatedly visited the police station asking the whereabouts of her son, and she was ignored. During the trial, all 3 officers kind of just put the blame on one another. But they did all receive a pretty hefty fine, and Andreas was awarded the 250,000 shillings that he demanded. To this day, even though he didn't try, he still holds the Guinness World Record for the longest surviving time without food or water.
I got 250,000. Nah, I would have had to get a meal off that. Bump that, man. Kept me in there 18 days without food or water, and he survived. They all should have got
I know you know
fired.
this holiday movie, but do you know these movie facts? Holiday Horror Advent Calendar Day 6, and today is Black Christmas, 2006 version. I hope this doesn't get me canceled, but I love the original Black Christmas, but I prefer this one. Black Christmas is about this escaped maniac who goes back to his childhood home, which is now a sorority house, and wreaks havoc on the sorority sisters. Movie trivia number 1. In the background of one of the scenes, we see something very familiar. You can spot the leg lamp from the movie A Christmas Story, which was directed by Bob Clark, who also directed the original Black Christmas. Movie trivia number 2. The movie was filmed in Canada and only took 29 days to complete filming. Movie trivia number 3. Writer and director Glenn Morgan really wanted to expand on Billy's character because he felt like that's what was missing in the original Black Christmas, so when he was coming up with different character traits, he studied one very specific person. He based a lot of character traits and backstory on real-life serial unaliver Edmund Kemper.
What is the biggest difference between Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and the new age slasher Art the Clown? It's this one thing. Will Gen slashers always hold true to this? Because they're not threats. But will Art the Clown see it that way? I don't know, because from what I've been told, the first couple minutes of Terrifier 3 are said to be some of the most disgusting, disturbing, and shocking things we've ever seen. And that's saying a lot, because Terrifier 2 is absolutely insane, especially the bedroom scene. People were literally running out of the theaters and throwing up when they first saw Terrifier 2. And if the first couple minutes of Terrifier 3 are said to be some of the most shocking and disturbing things we've seen from Art, what does that mean for this little person? But what's going to happen? Because from the countless set photos we've seen, Art the Clown is dressed up as Santa Claus and going to the mall. Meaning he's going to have a ton of people around him sitting on his lap and telling him what he wants for Christmas. Now, we already know what Art the Clown wants for Christmas. He wants to decorate with people. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions and tagged in this video. Do I think Art the Clown is genuinely going to pack this kid up? I don't know. I don't think Damien Leone is going to go that far, but if it's been said that this movie is going to be 10 times shocking, especially the first 5 minutes, and we've already seen the 2-minute clip where Buddy's going crazy downstairs, I really don't know if I would put it past Art the Clown for him to do this. I just kind of hope not.
So much has happened in the last 24 hours, it's insane. California was hit with a 7.0 magnitude earthquake, which then triggered a tsunami warning, which was then cancelled. The French government has literally collapsed after their prime minister was booted out in the first successful vote of no confidence in over 60 years. Romania's constitutional court has just ordered their presidential elections to restart from scratch after intelligence documents suggested that the winner of the first round benefited from a mass foreign influence operation. People are calling for the Hoktua girl to be investigated after she launched a meme coin that dropped over 90% of its value overnight, losing people millions of dollars. The words carved onto the shells used in the killing of United Health CEO claim to lead to this book titled Delay, Deny, Defend: Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims and What You Can Do About It. The Czech Republic has just passed a bill exempting Bitcoin held for more than 3 years from capital gains tax starting 2025. The family of the teenage boy who fell to his death on the drop ride at Orlando theme park in 2022 has just been awarded a huge $310 million payout. TikTok lost its appeal to strike down the TikTok ban law, and NASA has just delayed its first mission to put humans on the moon in over 50 years to no earlier than mid-2027.
We learned a lot of info on that last bit of clips, bro. The Hawk Tour. The one that got to me, man, is the Hawk Tour, bro. When I saw when she did that Hawk Tour, that meme pool, I'm just like, people just don't get it. And people still fail for that. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you guys comment down below, leave a thumbs up button on this video. Also hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys are gonna catch me in the next one, man. I'm out. Appreciate you too.